Welcome to the epic library stored within the blood. If you think your family history only goes back a few centuries, prepare to be amazed. The DNA of the Filipino people is, without exaggeration, one of the most uniquely complex and unparalleled genetic records found anywhere on Earth. It is not just the story of a nation. It is a 60,000-year saga of human migration, a genetic crossroads where the world's most ancient pioneers and its most modern global travelers converged and intertwined. Imagine your DNA as a map. For the average Filipino, this map has core roots deeply rooted in Southeast Asia and East Asia, making up about 90% of the journey. But what makes this map so special are the small, unexpected detours, about 5% Southern European, 3% South Asian, and a startling 2% Native American. This mix of faraway ancestries from India, Spain, and even the Americas all coming together in an archipelago of over 7,000 islands demands a look back into the deepest history of human movement. Our story begins over 60,000 years ago during the Ice Age. The ancestors of today's indigenous Negrito populations, such as the Ada and Mamanwa, represented the first major wave of modern humans to colonize the Philippines, traveling across land masses made accessible by lower sea levels. This deep history places the Philippines at the vanguard of human settlement in island Southeast Asia. But the story goes even deeper because archaeological discoveries confirm that Luzon Island was home to an even older extinct hominin species. Called Homo luzonensis, or Kuyoro man, over 49,000 years ago, proving the islands were an isolated evolutionary cradle long before modern humans arrived. The most astonishing discovery in this ancient chapter relates to our extinct human relatives, the Denisovans. While Denisovan DNA is found in many populations across Asia and Oceania, recent groundbreaking research delivered a world record. The Philippine Ada Magbacan ethnic group in Luzon possesses the highest known proportion of Denisovan ancestry in the world. They carry approximately 30 to 40% more Denisovan genes than the famous populations of Papua New Guinea. This is not a subtle historical connection. This is strong evidence of an independent and ancient interbreeding event that occurred right in the vicinity of the Philippines between these pioneering ancestors and a unique Denisovan population. This archaic DNA is a preserved time capsule, proving the archipelago's status as a critical, unique center for human origins. Fast forward many thousands of years to about 4,200 years ago when the second massive wave of migration began, laying down the genetic and linguistic backbone of the modern Filipino people, the Austronesian expansion. These were masterful seafarers who moved south from the coastal regions of China and Taiwan. Their navigational genius resulted in a vast diaspora, genetically and linguistically linking the Philippines to islands as far-flung as Madagascar, Malaysia, and the islands of Polynesia, including Hawaii and Samoa. This movement introduced the core paternal genetic lineages, haplogroup O1A and O2, which are still found frequently in Filipinos today. Crucially, genetic evidence shows this was not a simple replacement of the older populations. Instead, the Austronesian languages and new farming technologies spread largely through a process called acculturation, where existing groups adopted the new ways of life. This dynamic allowed the older, deep genetic roots of the Negrito populations to persist, resulting in the complex genetic blending that defines the modern population. The result is that the Philippines is home to an astonishing 175 to 186 indigenous languages, one of the highest diversity indices globally, reflecting this complex interaction between migrants and existing populations. Now we arrive at the historical era where the Philippines acted as the ultimate global transit hub. Centuries before European ships arrived, the islands were already connected to the massive Indian Ocean trading network. This constant maritime exchange, dating back to at least the 9th century BC, left the clear and measurable 3% South Asian ancestry in the average Filipino genome. Furthermore, the East Asian component was continuously reinforced by centuries of migration and trade from coastal China, notably Fujian, leading to substantial intermixing that has often had a greater genetic impact than the later European arrival. This brings us to one of the most surprising facts, the Spanish paradox. Despite 333 years of Spanish colonial rule, the average Filipino genome carries only about 5% Southern European DNA. This is extremely low compared to Spanish colonies in the Americas. This reality is due to the immense distance from Spain, which limited large-scale migration, and the fact that local populations were already largely established. The common sight of Spanish surnames, such as De la Cruz or Santos, is often the result of administrative mandates imposed for census taking and taxation, not necessarily proof of deep Spanish paternal lineage. Finally, we hit the most unique element that cements the Filipino status as a global crossroads, the 2% Native American ancestry. This genetic thread is the direct signature of the Manila Galleon trade 1565 to 1815, which established the first truly globalized commercial route between Asia and the Americas, centered in Mexico, New Spain. The galleons didn't just carry silk and silver, they carried people. Filipinos and other Asians were transported to the Spanish colony in Mexico, and critically, Mexican mestizos and indigenous Native Americans were transported back to the Philippines, often as soldiers, crew, or slaves, introducing their genetic markers. Genetic studies confirm this flow through the presence of the distinct Native American Y-DNA haplogroup QM242 in the Philippines. This unexpected finding proves the Philippines was, historically, the pivot point of a transatlantic world linking Southeast Asia directly to the Americas centuries ago. The final piece of this unparalleled complexity is internal, the archipelago effect. The 7,000-plus islands acted as natural barriers, resulting in profound geographical and cultural isolation, creating a genetic mosaic rather than a single melting pot. While coastal cities became global hubs of admixture, isolated groups have maintained highly distinct, ancient lineages. For example, studies show that while lowland populations have the highest levels of global admixture, groups in the mountainous Cordillera region of Luzon, like the Bontoc and Ibaloy, display very low levels of external mixing, preserving deep East Asian ancestry. In some remarkable cases, certain central Cordilleran groups show no genetic admixture with neighboring Negrito populations despite extensive interaction, proving that cultural and geographic barriers acted as powerful genetic walls. This unique complexity, simultaneous global connection, and deep internal isolation is the definitive feature of the Filipino genetic fabric. In the end, the Filipino genetic narrative is an epic testament to the human story. From holding the world record for archaic human DNA to acting as the center of the first global trade route, the history written in the genes of the Filipino people is a story of continuous survival, assimilation, and breathtaking human adaptability. It is proof that every Filipino carries within them an unparalleled, unique map of global history.